Welcome back to NPTEL online certification course on public speaking. My dear friends, we are now in the last leg of week 9, and in the previous lectures we have already discussed various nuances of oral presentations. The lecture that we are going to undertake today is titled Use of Visual Aids in Oral Presentation. But before we delve deep into the discussion of this topic, let me share with you something. Let me also ask you a very simple question. Most of you might have often been impressed with a beautiful sight, with a beautiful picture, with a beautiful structure, with a beautiful movie, with a beautiful scenery. Have you ever thought of that why you were impressed with it, and you also remember these beautiful things for a long time? They are actually imprinted on your mind. The moment somebody starts saying something about the 7 wonders of the world, certain wonders that you have yourself seen with your own eyes, they come quite alive to your memory, and the picture is inscribed on your mind. Why does it so happen? Now, let me also ask you that when you read a book, and if the same book has been converted into a movie and you watch the movie, what happens? You are able to understand the theme of the book, the theme of the novel more, and you remember more. I do remember that in literature we often come across some great and some classical books. At times many learners often say that they could not understand the important plot and the story, and I tell them, if the book has been converted into a movie, I tell them to watch that, and once they have watched the movie, they actually are very much pleased. They start understanding the theme, the plot and everything. So is actually the case of visual aids in oral presentation. When we say oral presentations, most of you start thinking that there will be a presenter who will be speaking or blabbering for a long time, and then maybe at times you often start feeling very uneasy. Now, how can we overcome this uneasiness when we have to deliver a presentation? I think the answer is, if you can bring some visual aids in your presentation, then your task will become easier. Now, you might be thinking as to how and what actually is the importance of visual aids. Sometimes they are not only visual, sometimes they can be audio visuals also. So, in this regard, let us first try to understand what are audio visuals, because it is actually a sort of experiment to bring audio visuals in classroom, and that really has worked well, worked wonders. Now, according to the Webster dictionary, these audio visual aids are defined as training or educational materials, when for the first time it was used, directed at both the senses of hearing and the sense of sight. Of course, In oral presentations, you in a way have both the facilities. If you can bring or make use of some visuals in your presentation, and as a presenter you are presenting it, so you are making a use of audio visual aids. Of course, we are not only restricted to audio, because when we provide them with visuals, you will find that there is a satisfaction in their eyes. So, the sense of sight, films, recordings, photographs used in classroom instructions, library collections or the likes. Now, they are most often called instructional materials, but when somebody is going to give a professional presentation in an organization, he also can make his learners or his audience members happy, satisfied, having no clouds of despair on their faces, if as a careful speaker he makes use of these visual aids. My dear friends, the term audio visual aids, because at many places people call it audio visual. So, the term audio visual aids refers then to all sorts of equipments and gadgets in order to supplement the message that as a speaker we are trying to provide them. An aid makes the communication vivid, lucid, more interesting, fine, because time and again we can refer to some of the old sayings that a picture is worth 1,000 words. If you saw a picture, I think half the battle you have already won, because not everybody can be and is a good speaker that through his words he will create those images. So, in a way, and that is why we call it a sort of aid. It helps the speaker attract the attention of the audience members and enables him to enliven even a dull topic. Now, you might be thinking that when we talk about public speaking, is there some room even for visual aids? My dear friends, in the previous lectures we have told you that when you give an oral presentation, and if you are giving an oral presentation, every now and then the topics may not be interesting to everyone, but as a speaker your aim is to provide satisfaction, pleasure, information to everyone. And that is why when we bring these aids in our presentation, we are actually trying to ease off the tension, the anxiety, the ennui, the curiosity, because picture satisfies more than words. Do you not remember what you saw in your last trip? Most of us, the moment somebody tells or takes the name of the Taj Mahal, fine, most of us actually start creating a picture, because the picture is already in our mind. We have seen it, fine, a number of times and it is already inscribed. Now, how are these aids beneficial and how can it help the speaker? My dear friends, even when somebody has to give a lecture on a very complicated topic or a talk or a presentation on a complicated topic, where sometimes the data are required, where sometimes people would like to know about the trends either of the development or of the employment or of the unemployment or of the facilities provided to people. So, what can come to our help is certain aids which can be shown, and we can also see to it that the points that we are discussing are supplemented, complemented, analyzed and understood in the right manner. So, these aids, which in educational technology we call instructional aids, that are actually beneficial for everyone. And if it is audio visual, not every now and then it can be audio visual, but if it is audio visual, it has both the benediction of speech as well as of sight. Now, what are the advantages? Why I am trying to emphasize upon the fact that in a professional presentation, a speaker should make use of visual aids. My dear friends, every now and then the listeners or the audience members may not be ready to listen to you. And the moment they say that they have to listen to a talk, they have lots of curiosities. Sometimes they also have a sort of disinterestedness when they are actually felt that they are actually made to see or made to listen something, they actually feel it is very difficult for them. So, here are some advantages of visual aids as mentioned by Christopher Turk in his book Speaking Effectively, where he says that the first advantage of visual aids is to grab attention. I mean, when you saw a picture, for the time being all the audience members suddenly look at the picture, and even if somebody is not a very good speaker and he cannot continue to speak for a long time, the attention is divided between the speaker and the aid. It actually provides variety and relief. I have been saying in several lectures that you cannot control the attention of the audience members for a long time, and they at times start feeling a sort of monotony, and in order to drive home the monotony also, these visual aids can come to your help. Maybe a particular technical aspect is not being understood, and suddenly you provide a visual aid there, task becomes easier. And it also helps audience's memory, because when you show some visual aids, the audience members, they start visualizing, and if they might have come across it earlier, then naturally the task becomes easier, they are able to memorize. Moreover, as I say, a picture is inscribed on your mind. So, audience's memory is also helped, and one of the most important advantages of visual aids is that it saves the speaker's time. A lot of material, if have to be spoken, and at the same time you provide a picture, so what happens? A picture speaks more, a picture is worth 1,000 words, so it will save your time, it will help you as a speaker to save your time, and it will also help you to cover up lot of things. Now, when you make use of words, phrases, anecdotes, whatsoever, people may, as our audience members, may have different experiences and they will be comparing their experiences, isn't it? But when you show them a picture, the reaction to the picture may be the same. It actually creates the same image. The moment we say something which is very technical, fine, and you show the picture there, I mean the audience members concentrate there on the image or the picture, it will create the same image. It is not like words which I have been saying, words may have myriad meanings, but the picture will bring to them the same sort of image in all of them, unless and until they are artists, celebrated ones who can actually try to find out something very exceptional. And as I have been saying, that a speaker, when he has to face strange crowds, then he feels a sort of situation where he feels a sort of fear, anxiety. So, when situated very properly the aids, the speaker also brings advantage to himself, because maybe he will get some time to move. When he shows the picture, he will have some movements, and my dear friends, these movements will bring a sort of relief. So, it assists the speaker in controlling the nerves. If you do not feel very confident of speaking. So, for some time it can provide you a sort of breather, and finally it also helps you as a speaker, because as a speaker we are bound to forget something at times. So, if you are showing the image or the picture, then naturally some of the clues in the picture as a speaker tells you what you are going to say next or speak next. But if you simply are tempted by so many images and visuals, then there can be disadvantages also. So, these visual aids may also have certain limitations. I mean, if a person brings lots of visual aids, the contact between the speaker and the listener at times is at stake. So, less personal contact will be there. And then, do you think that your pictures will tell everything? No, pictures cannot tell everything, visual aids cannot tell everything. Actually, things have to be explained. That is why people who join the world of teaching, initially they feel it very difficult if they have to give a PowerPoint presentation or a teaching with the help of the PPTs. What they start doing is they start reading these slides and invite monotony, ennui, irritation, anxiety from the side of the audience members. So, that is why there is a limitation. Do not bring too many aids, and in case some of the images are abstract, it is very difficult, because on the one way it actually reduces your tasks, helps you as a speaker, but at the same time it can also pose difficulties, impediments, and too many images may bring distraction, isn't it? Like the way too many PowerPoint slides may bring distraction in the classroom. And if somebody believes that pictures do better than words, and let me speak less, let my pictures speak, then it will become very difficult. It will create a sort of distraction, a boredom, a sort of ennui, my dear friends. Now, but then as I have been saying, that bringing visual aids to your presentation is often appreciated. Now, what are the things that we should keep into consideration when we are going to make use of aids? See to it that the aids are very specific. I mean, at times you are not able to decide which aids to be provided, isn't it? So, specificity, when you are preparing the aids, you have to bear certain points in mind. What are those points? Your content you are well aware of. So, based on your content, you go for the visual aids and you choose the proper medium, how it will work. If you have created the visual aids yourself, are you also able to integrate the aid with the presentation? Because at times it so happens that you are speaking, but the aids you have not properly placed. So, in order to bring aids to your talk, see to it that not only are they very relevant, but at the same time they have been properly located. At times it has also been seen that you are giving either a PowerPoint presentation or a presentation with the help of OHP, my dear friends, and you stand in between, and what happens? People are not able to see, and then they often come to a sort of dissatisfaction. They feel like being disgruntled, isn't it? So, one must, as a speaker, have the basic knowledge of the equipment which one is using. Here by equipment I mean the aids that you have brought, and it is always better to inspect whether your visual aids are working or not. So, inspect the venue beforehand so that it may provide you with a sort of relief that all is well. My dear friends, all may not be well if you yourself are not well, and in order that you become well, you need to understand these realities. Whether your visuals are specific, have you made it very clear? Clarity is the hallmark not only of presentations but of all sorts of talks. Are the aids simple, Can everyone be in a position to understand, unravel the mystery that as a speaker you are trying to sow there? And again one thing, are your aids visible? For that you must see, sometimes it so happens that somebody actually crowds a lot of information on the slides, on the aids, on the flip charts, on the pie charts, on the graphs, fine, and they will actually pose a lot of difficulty. So, see to it that your aids are less distracting, and they, as I said earlier, they properly integrate what as a speaker you want to say. Again, one thing that is actually very much important, even for those people whose aid you are taking in sowing the aids. What happens sometimes, I have also experienced at times that when I tell somebody to provide me as an assistance to run these slides, what they do at times is they actually run the slide, no doubt, but then they actually start racing. My dear friends, let the slides or let the pictures or let the aids stay for some time, so that the audience members may feel a sort of eye relief, and not only a sort of relief from the hearings. So, let the slides or let the aids not be run very fast. No racing, my dear friends. Rather, pacing is very important. Let the audience members face the visual aids. And then, do you not think that the speaker himself is also an aid? And in order to supplement that, let me tell you that if there are so many aids, fine, where will the speaker go? The connection will be lost. So, remember that you must talk to people and not to the aids. Especially inexperienced and novice speakers, they are so much tempted that they bring so many aids, and as a person, as a speaker, they actually start talking to the aids and not to the people. Now, there are quite a good number of varieties of aids available. Aids may be audio aids, especially in terms of speaking. We do not use much of audio aids, but we are living in an advanced age where when we are bringing some clips which are audio visual, then perhaps we may require. Sometimes or the other you can bring your radio, tape recorder. Nowadays we also, in the language laboratory, we also see to it that in order to explain our point better, we make use of language lab. Then, since my attempt is to encourage you to make use of visual aids, so these are the visual aids, namely charts, flip charts, pie charts, graph charts, flow charts, fine, maps, models, depending upon the requirement of the subject. And then when we talk about both audio and visual, here you may have an experience of audio and visual. I am also showing you the slides and I am speaking also, but then you can also bring in your presentation some clips which are audio visual. Sometimes projectors, you may also at times, nowadays majority of the people are giving multimedia presentations and they know better how to make use of them. Now, when we talk about the kinds of visual aids, as I have said, graphs, charts, drawings, models, objects, photographs and many more. Nowadays there is no dearth of visual aids. It actually depends upon you as to how you are going to make use of it. We shall define them systematically and in detail as to what they are and how they are helpful. We are living in a very different age, in an age where technology has enslaved us so much. Of course, there is no use of blackboards now, but in earlier days, blackboard used to be the best aid, especially in the field of teaching. Nowadays, this blackboard has been substituted by whiteboard, and this is a very cheap aid, it does not cost much, but then it provides ample space. Maybe at times I want to, if I would be a scientist, I might be explaining something on the whiteboard that often is behind me. Sometimes the speaker may also try to convince the audience by creating a sort of image on the whiteboard, fine, by making diagrams, by making graphs. As a literature teacher, I sometimes make use of several synonyms and write them on the board, fine. That actually eases the tension that I can experience on the faces of many of my listeners. Actually, when you do that, as I said earlier, not only are you providing relief to yourself, but then you are also helping the listeners, audience members in the process. But remember, while you are doing so, please do not confine yourself only to writing. Please write also and speak also. Actually, they provide a sort of breather, and the audience members, they also feel some amount of relief for the time being when the speaker actually is drawing these images, writing something on the black or whiteboard. You might have experienced that when something new is to be made, either a building or a structure or a bridge or whatsoever, before that the people who are going to propose and want to have a sort of approval, they actually bring a sort of model. It is very difficult. It actually is a field of engineering, but then they actually make it so beautifully, they create a sort of image as if it will be the same when it is made. So, a model is actually a miniature representation of something, my dear friends. It is actually a sort of alternative to the real object that will come. That is why when we plan for something now, maybe after 2 or 3 years, but by that time this image has already been inscribed in the mind of so many people. And once when it is made, we actually try to see whether they are similar or not. So, models are also helpful. If you are giving a presentation and you are a student of architecture or whatsoever, perhaps you will be in a position to make use of these models and convince your crowd. Then handouts. Many people, many speakers bring handout. Now, I have often felt that if you provide them with the handouts just in the beginning, they will be stuck in the handout and not listen to you. So, it is better that if you are trying to make use of handouts, make it, but if you can give it either in the middle or towards the end, it will work better. Then pie charts, all of you are aware of pie charts, slides, they have become very common. Then flow charts, flip charts, fine. So, flip chart, as you already know, it can be fixed on a whiteboard either with the help of a tripod, and one can create, and then after this there can be something else as well. It actually helps you and it provides the audience some amount of rest. Projections, sometimes or the other, I also bring film clips to my classroom, and I have found the sort of happiness on the faces of my crowd, fine. Sometimes if you bring an audio clip when you are trying to tell your audience members about something that happened in the past and you are referring to that, that also will be very helpful, my dear friends. But in most of the oral presentations, you do not go for audio aids, rather you go for visuals, because you as a speaker yourself are an audio aid, my dear friends. Now, audio visual aids which is used in education sector, let us have two observations. According to Noel, good instruction is the foundation of any educational program, and that is why audio visual trainings were there. Then audio visuals are device which can be used to make the learning experience more concrete, realistic and more dynamic. Now, when you are going to make use of visual aids, let us try to have some precautionary measures. I think when you write your presentation, you have in your mind what sort of visuals you will use. So, when you are planning for that, see to it that you do it beforehand, isn't it? Either it is audio or visual or whatsoever, fine. So, you should prepare well before, and you should get yourself acquainted with what you are going to make use of. Make it simple, as I have already said, the point of discussion that you are going to make, because you will be emphasizing. So, when you are going to emphasize, emphasize with an aim to enhance and not to be at the center of the presentation. My dear friends, when you are using visual aids, see that you do not write in a very petite, in a very small way, let them be big. No, small is beautiful, no doubt, but big is also beautiful, especially from the point of view of our presentations. So, make sure that visual aids are large enough, isn't it? Even if you are making use of fonts, see to it that they are clear, they can be understood by each and every one. If you are going to use so many font types, again that can create a sort of distraction. So, please confine yourself to one. Let there not be so many forms or fonts. Sometimes, in order to highlight certain points, we also make use of colors. So, when you make use of colors, see to it that it can appeal to the sensory organ. Sometimes, if you make excessive use of colors, then it might perhaps again pinch the eyes of the audience members. Avoid passing visual aids to the audience, fine. If you do so, as I said, if you provide them the handouts beforehand, you will lose their attention, my dear friend, and you never want to do that. Talk to the audience, not to the aids. We have already said, and once again I am going to emphasize, because at times I have also, being a part of some of the presentations, I have felt that the person speaking is involved more in the aids than in the people. So, it is the audience members who are actually to be convinced. That is why one should always see to it that the presentation is understood and it relies not only on the visuals, but also on the audio that you are displaying. Visual aids have to be explained, but while you are explaining it, see to it that it is actually a part of your delivery, I mean integration, fine. They need explanations and sweeping statements. You cannot describe, you cannot spend a lot of time on one aid, otherwise it will once again cause a lot of difficulties, my dear friend. Now, having said all these, I think you are in a better frame of mind as to when you will be giving your next presentation. You will ensure that you have made your visual aids specific, clear, simple, large, and you talk to the audience and not to the aid. My dear friends, time has come to end this lecture, but before I end, let me take a quote by Dale Ludwig, who says, "Well designed visuals do more than provide information, they bring order to the conversation." I think you will keep all these things into consideration the next time when you go to make a sort of oral presentation. With this, I take your leave. Thank you very much.